Welcome to the show Brain Rot, What Our Screens Are Doing to Our Minds, a special series from the New Books Network. Here are your hosts, Dr. Karyne Messina and Dr. Harry Gill.
Welcome to Brain Rot, What Our Screens Are Doing to Our Minds, a special series on the New Books Network. I'm Dr. Karyne Messina, the host of the show, joined by my very knowledgeable co-host, Dr. Harry Gill. On the show, we talk about the psychological and neurological effects of basically too much screen time and how we are all affected by it, and particularly in our inner lives, as well as many people with their peers. We hope that this is a meaningful segment for you, and if you do find it to be useful, we would appreciate if you could pass it on to other people who might enjoy it. Today, we have a special topic that is quite disturbing, and it's sextortion. It's blackmail, but a different kind of blackmail, because when a person is blackmailed and they lose money, it's a terrible thing. But there's something about this, one's sexuality, that really makes them particularly vulnerable. So, Dr. Gill, how about you get us started on the different ways perpetrators acquire material and also are really hurtful to people?
It's a really sad, dark aspect of social media and internet in general, where a propensity to exploit people has play field with all age ranges. This is not limited to children. It's probably most devastating to children because of their vulnerability, but it is devastating to adults, and it's devastating to professionals. The careers are lost, and in the darkest space, the lives are lost. The topic at hand is really, how does brain react to need to connect, to need to be loved, to experience of exaltation when we feel desired. And again, this is a need that spans all ages. We're going to focus first on the teen years, where the sexuality and the sex hormones are beginning to brew. And there is essentially an imbalance in forces in the brain, because the prefrontal cortex that I talk about all the time, that regulates our behavior and makes decisions on what we should do, should not do, and essentially has a task to say no to a drive, sexual or aggressive drive-driven behavior. That part of the brain that is supposed to say no is not fully developed until probably age 25, we think right now. So 12 and 13-year-old with newly nascent testosterone and estrogen surges that has sexual longings has great deal of drive energy, to use Freudian language, and very little no coming from prefrontal cortex. So the environmental inputs and environmental circumstance becomes incredibly important. In the regular day-to-day life, this sort of sexual drive will be controlled by societal norms, by adults or peers observing behavior, and they will essentially serve the function of an auxiliary ego. If a child is too scantily clad, a parent may say, honey, you need to wear something different, that is too revealing. If they show up at school too provocatively or behave too provocatively, a teacher may say, honey, please stop doing that. So there is an external locus of control. Now let's move all of that into the dark corners of the internet, where when in the context of either chat-enabled games or Snapchat or any social media really with direct messaging, a child is essentially think of it as standing on the street corner of sort of the worst part of town that you can imagine, wherever you live, and they're innocently standing there, exposed to anybody that can walk by and tell them that they have candy for them. You know, how we tell our children, if a stranger approaches you with candy, don't follow. Yeah, go to see an adult and yada yada. Um, Online, we're not there, and the stranger's candy is it can take many forms. And in Roblox games in particular, the candy becomes I think it's called Robux. There's an actual game money. There are tokens that can be given to children in other games. There are all sorts of candy or versions thereof that engage children in a way that can very quickly become grooming and can become inappropriate.
Well, let's explain just briefly grooming. I know it's preparing, let's say, particularly young people. It doesn't have to be. It can happen with older people too, who are lonely, etc. And I can go into that a little bit later. But they explain grooming.
It is a form of engagement in which there's initially a very surface connection, in which there is sort of a kind, friendly presentation, and then engagement gets stronger and stronger to really establish trust.
Yeah.
Eventually, the relationship becomes controlling, and eventually it becomes menacing. And done by people who either do it professionally for profit or done by sociopaths that do it for personal pleasure. We do have to recognize that there are people that enjoy torturing other people and usually trauma victims themselves. It's a whole another topic for a conversation, but to really recognize that there are people that love spending time destroying other people's lives.
Yeah.
And to speak more to the children, I'm going to get to the adults in a minute as well, from just clinical experience, marveling at the rapid devolution of internet into these dark corners. A child then has, again, lots of testosterone, lots of estrogen. There is a fake ID person that looks beautiful and they're very sexy and they're showing them affection and they are giving them compliments and the child is getting more and more excited. And before you know it, child thinks that what they're sending, particularly on Snapchat, they think that this image will disappear. And in the moment of excitement, they forget the screenshot captures everything. And the moment the send is made, things can turn ugly.
Now, you're using the word child. Are you fundamentally meeting particularly young adolescents?
Young adolescents, even teenagers, 16, 17-year-old.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
30. But, well,
12. Yeah, absolutely. We've had clinical cases of 11, 12, 13. In a very dramatic case, I'm going to be very circumspect in describing this, but a sibling engaged their sibling to perform sexual acts. And it was posted, and they were getting payments for these sexual acts. Needless to say, the entire family was utterly destroyed. And these are things that I happen to see day in, day out. I see hundreds of teenagers every week, and these stories are not uncommon, which is what drives us to do this show, to inform people and not to be naive. So that moment when the child or an adult sends a picture of themselves, the conversation very rapidly can turn into, okay, I have your picture. I'm going to show it to the world. I'll post it to your Instagram. I'll show it to your parents, unless you send me $25. Now think of the moment in which a young person without fully developed prefrontal cortex, so the rational thought of what's going on, should they continue down this road? Should they ask their parents? Should they consult with their friends? This is a moment of sheer panic.
Yeah.
And the arousal then is fear. And how do I protect myself? And mortification of what have I done? And my parents will be upset with me, and my friends will shun me, and this is embarrassing. And they'll start stealing money, and they will try to assuage the person that has done this to them. But the person capable of initiating this kind of communication has no mercy. And they continue and they continue. And then the child starts thinking of suicide. And
Yeah.
in many instances, they do take their own life. And parents are still very naive to how dangerous the apps and the games are.
Yeah.
So taking a breather from this heavy topic, and what I want to really impart to all parents is to really not allow their children to play chat-enabled games. Roblox is dangerous. Minecraft is dangerous. Fortnite is dangerous. Twitch is dangerous. Any place where a child is chatting to other people is a dangerous corner on the street in the darkest place in town.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not necessary for children to play any of these games, even though they think their life depends on it. And they have friends online, and these are exactly the friends that we should all be afraid of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to add that I do think people associate this sort of thing with teenagers. I know that it isn't just this age group. Uh, they're not the only people involved. I got a call not too long ago. It actually had several different calls. This was from a friend in another state, childhood friend. And she was in a panic because her mother-in-law, who's up there in terms of age, she got a call from a bank, quote unquote. She thought it was from a bank. And they said her money was being taken away as they spoke on the phone and that they needed information. And she gave them the information that the person asked for. And one thing led to the other, and quite a large sum of money was taken over time from this woman's account because she stayed engaged with the person who was charming, and she was flattered by this. And I think, I don't have the full story, but I think that she sort of had a crush on this handler. And it turned out to be, it's in this country, it's often not, but a ring of people who were out to take advantage of older people. And so she's lost quite a bit of money, and she's not going to get back this.
With older people, what I hear a lot is this kind of menace entering people's lives through dating apps.
Yeah.
Single people above certain age, and as I see people over many, many years, they notice that as they get older, all of a sudden they don't have real people reaching out to them, but they have basically chat bots. And unless you're wise, the chatbot is essentially a fake identity that says pleasing things. It's very seductive. It's very beautiful. Probably somebody that's normally out of one's reach.
Mhm.
And the conversation very slowly, again, this is a different kind of grooming, but it's again grooming of trust, where somebody needs help or somebody needs plane tickets or somebody needs something. And before you know it, there's a financial extortion. It can become sextortion. There's a notorious case here in New York of a weathercaster that was essentially one of these performative websites showing off his body until somebody started blackmailing him and threatening that they were going to share this with his employer, which in the end they did, and he lost his job and it destroyed his career. And approaching internet with anything but the very corrosive way of thinking of it as a dark corner in the bad part of town is really, really ill-informed.
Yeah. Well, whether somebody is 12 or whether they're 78, I think
Yeah.
should stay away from the dark quarters of town, the worst part of town, and that can be the internet. So whether it's asking for or taking pictures of sexually explicit pictures or asking them to be sent, or whether it's preying on somebody who's lonely, who develops a crush on the perpetrator. It's all very negative, and it's all a form of sextortion.
Yeah. And it's preying on, you write a lot about projective identification and our capacity for projective identification. It's really targeting that aspect of our mind. It sends us a shadow that we populate with our projections. And we create this person that loves us and we'll have sex with, or something wonderful is going to happen, which is the trap, and it's very easy to fall into.
Very easy. Even if we're not talking about this topic, when somebody projects something onto you, you often think, oh my God, did I really do that? Is that really me? And when you're able to give it back to the person and say, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't me. This is really about you, Charles or Mary Ellen.
Along those lines, thinking of sort of neuroscience informed interventions. You and I are writing a book on this particular topic that's coming out soon. The time of when we engage internet, time of the day also matters, and it's related to the frontal lobe function. So it is not for no reason that my general advice is to have kids use or interact with screens in the presence of parents in the living room, where they're surrounded by reality and they're surrounded by the presence of these auxiliary frontal lobes that can see what they're doing. And it's also during the day when the frontal lobes are still at their most alert. When you send your child to the bedroom at 10 p.m. with a screen, they're slowly beginning to fall asleep. The frontal lobe is slowly getting offline. The pre-existing relative weakness of judgment has just gone out the window. And the sexual longings are completely overtaking the rational thought, like, should I be doing this? That's why I say this environmental maneuvering that we have responsibility to do for ourselves as adults, and also for our children in particular. When do we engage with screens? What do we engage with on the screen? And how do we engage with that is really, it's the very serious topic that everybody for themselves needs to figure out. How do they want to relate to it? How does screen, actual example of a couple, how does a screen destroy a sex life in a couple? Because they're staring at a screen and they're doom scrolling or shopping or whatever, or even one of them is looking at pornography and masturbating, not engaging the life partner that is right next to them. So really to think very seriously how we are engaged by screens, and how do we allow screens to engage us.
On that note, how about if we look at how to prevent somebody from being extorted? And we're talking about sextortion. How do we prevent that? What is the advice? Now, I know one thing is never send anything to anyone online that's sexually explicit in any way. But I know you have specific examples of what not to do.
Not to engage somebody you don't really know. Yeah, it goes to the example you gave. A bank is calling or somebody's calling in your money. It's always that, stop, think about it. It's always stop and think about it. It's not, in many ways, therapy that we do is all about inviting people and teaching them to stop and think about how they're going to react to whatever. And in this case, should I start talking to somebody that just made a phone call, or should I tell them, thank you for your call, let me call the bank, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah. And that's usually when they try to engage you again because they know, obviously, if you call them the branch, your closest branch, you're not going to get them again. So definitely end the
That
call
form of
your branch.
absolutely that form of stop and let me think about this should apply to everything, which is this the real person I'm talking to? Or is this a beautiful Ukrainian woman that doesn't exist that wants me to send her money so she can come and become my wife? Like
Yep.
those are the examples, when you see them on television, you think, oh, this person is so stupid. They're not stupid. There was a period of grooming that took place prior to that played on his projective or her projective identification, and money got exchanged. Because in that space of virtuality, when there's no reality, we really, really work with our own projections.
Yeah.
And our grasp on reality is relatively limited, and unless it's tested with the hard objects that we hit, or disapproving looks, or dilated pupils of shock when we're doing something, there's nothing to stop us because we're in the virtual playground. And with kids in particular, they are not prone to think, stop, let me think about this. You're going to do it. So it is our responsibility to constantly, repeatedly teach them. Like everybody knows I have now almost a 9-year-old. Ad nauseum, no chats. Chats are not allowed. And once he cheated and he had a chat open in one of the games, and I saw it, and the game was gone. And he, by that time, understood. We had in-depth conversations about why he cannot play Roblox, and I gave him examples explicitly. So the education of children as early as 6, 7, and 8 is possible. It is possible to explain to a child, this is not good for you, this is why I think it's not good for you, and I'm a parent that has your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm an ass parent that doesn't let you play this game that all of your friends are playing.
Well, that may be the image that you have to have for a while.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay. I can live with that. Yes.
All the other kids can do it. Well, maybe it's okay.
It's not you.
Yeah, sure.
Because again, the risks, and this is also how we are groomed if we extend this topic as parents. Yeah, everybody's doing it. So how can I be the cruel parent that doesn't let my child do it?
Right.
Well, if everybody's sending their kids on a road trip to walk through the most dangerous part of town, wherever you live, are you going to send your child there? I think in the book we use the example, if the child has a play date, we try to find out where is the play date, who are the parents, who are the other kids that are going to be there. Like, we have sense to do that. Same thing here. Just because other kids are doing it doesn't mean that your child needs to do it as well.
Absolutely. Let's just look at a couple of more things people shouldn't do with adults. Even something as simple as a two-system authentication. But, you have to log on to something, and then you have to verify it with as banks require a code from your phone. That's one simple thing that people should be doing. Also, not clicking on suspicious links. I personally never open something that looks suspicious or that I don't even know about. I just don't. I get enough that everybody does unsolicited email, so nobody needs to open that. It's also important to pay attention to privacy settings on one's computer. And if you don't know before opening something, it's better to ask.
Leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
Now, once you kind of think or believe you've been hacked, it seems like going to the authorities is one important thing to do. Let people know that somebody is trying to take advantage of you over the internet. What are some other things that people can do?
I think you covered it. And I think, going to authorities is really important because there are there are branches of government that spend their time looking for predators, looking for extortionists, that have the task to find people that do this for a living. And I don't know how many people saw the story of large groups of people in other countries that are kept basically in prison-like settings, and they're trained how to do this because people that kept them in prison are basically gangs that make money by forcing people to extort other people. So as I said, this is truly, these are criminal enterprises that end people's lives.
Yeah.
I want to be that dramatic. You lose money, fine, you lost money, but losing a child is something there's no pain like that pain, and people never recover from that. And for what?
Yeah.
Because we gave them, what I'm going to call a weapon of mass destruction. We put it in their hands. That this is tantamount to giving a child a gun. You need to take the bullets out before you give them the gun. Clean it, prune it, figure out what's on there.
Sure. Monitor what they could do.
Yeah, what is fascinating to me is even the child parental controls are very different from one system to the other. And if you're an Apple user, for example, as you can tell, I spend a lot of time trying to figure this out. If you're an Apple user, it is not possible to disable browser on your child's device.
That's important.
Yeah, if you have a browser, the world is at your fingertips. And my 8.5-year-old knows how to do things that I don't know how to do.
I know.
Yeah, so the devices that I have to give him Android devices because it's possible on Android to interfere with browser functionality. So the kind of deliberateness that parents these days need, the kind of technological expertise that they need to acquire, is also something that is challenging us as parents. You got to figure this stuff out, and it's not that easy.
I would also say that I think it's important if somebody has been violated and they feel terrible. Of course anyone would. I think it's important to realize that this is some sophisticated system phenomenon that's happening in our world today, and it's really important not to blame yourself, but perhaps to find a therapist you can talk to, and one who has some knowledge in this area, so that you don't blame yourself and go down a dark alley in this bad part of town that you've been talking about without help. You need somebody
Absolutely.
to be
And it just occurred to me to add to the topic of the necessity to develop a very strong stop and think about the reaction. The recent cases of AI can now really emulate people's voices.
Yeah,
So, your loved one can call and say, I'm in trouble. I'm at a bus stop. Send me money. And of course, you're sending money. But even in that instance, it may be that, is it really? Why are you at the bus stop? And why are you wherever you are? Let me stop and call you right back.
that's
See
the
if
key.
it's
I'll call you right back, whether it's bank, a loved one.
Or if you get an email, just don't open the link. Call your bank, the toll authority. Now there's a big email like you were overdue on your toll payment. That's a big scam. Make a phone call. Don't go for it.
Oh, yeah.
But the sextortion touches that very deeply intimate parts of ourselves that very quickly becomes mortification, embarrassment, feeling stupid. And as you say, you find somebody to talk to. Even that is not the end of the world.
Right. And I would like just to add quickly that one reason why people don't always contact a therapist or tell anyone is because shame can emerge rather quickly. And with shame, there's always a wish to hide. It's different than embarrassment. That you can usually share with people, but shame, if you feel like something has happened to you and you feel like you want to hide, it's a pretty good indication that there's shame involved.
Well, thank you. This was a good topic for our conversation.
We could talk for a long time about this. hopefully progress will be made on this topic. I hope so, with more parental controls. And sometimes it's parental controls, but the people we need to control are our parents or elderly people. They need help too. Okay, well, bye for now. Until next time.